You're listening to Youth Perspective on Adventist Radio London. I'm your host Adele, and today we are joined in the studio by the inspirational Czarina and Namooya, who are making waves in the health and fitness scene. But before we get into their story, we're going to pray and just invite God's presence in with us. So let's all bow our heads and pray. Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity to chat, this opportunity to grow. And Lord, we just ask that this is an inspirational session, Lord, that we can learn more about our health, ourselves, and these two wonderful young ladies, and that people listening will be inspired not only in their health but also in ministry and in many other ways. So Lord, thank you for this opportunity to connect and to speak. Amen. So
Amen.
Yes, Czarina and Namooya, as I said, making waves in the health scene. I mean, the theme of this season is really changing the narrative, and they are definitely doing that when it comes to health. You might have seen them across the BUC talking about different areas of health in their health talks. So from their own personal brands to co-founding HealthTalks and speaking across the country, they're promoting informed health, lifestyle choices and conversations and community engagement, as well as bringing new perspectives on health in a way that is so relevant and so accessible to our generation. So I've actually only known them for a short time, so I don't know the full extent to all of the things you guys are doing. So I'm going to invite you guys to kind of share a little bit of your backgrounds. I don't know if Czarina, you want to start, and then my follow on, but yeah, let the listeners know.
Yeah. So Health Talk started 4 years ago, coming up to 5 in August. It was a brainchild of ours in our days at uni. This was during the COVID period, which seems like a lifetime ago now. But we were thinking of doing something during the summer to help with our medical school applications. At the time, I wanted to be a doctor. Spoiler, I'm not in medical school now. But everything was closed. There was no work experience open. There were no internships. So being the very high agency determined people that we are, we decided to create our own thing. And it started off as a series of webinars. There were 5, with us talking about topics such as COVID-19, giving blood and organ donation. We spoke about a plant-based diet and how it impacts our body and our world, as well as inequalities in medicine. So it was a range of things that we touched on. And when everything opened back up, we decided to take that opportunity to start doing things in person. So we focused a lot on women's health at first, and really it's grown into something much bigger. So we are a movement that empowers communities through health, wellness and science. And recently we've partnered with youth ministries to reach a broader range of people, young people, to help them make the most of the best years of their life. So it's really a passion project that has turned into a ministry and hopefully something bigger in future.
Yeah, we're really, really happy to be able to be that voice and to share the Adventist health message. You know, we've had this for hundreds of years and yet the message has kind of been co-opted by the secular world and hasn't been able to be spearheaded by us. And as youth who are passionate about health, passionate about well-being, passionate about lifestyle change being the way to a happy, healthy, fulfilled life, we took that upon ourselves and have been blessed with opportunities.
So a really exciting origin story from you guys. So to kind of come back round to that, I love to insert a little Bible study into my sessions with people. And the verse that came up for me was 2 Corinthians 7 verse 1, which is from the New International Version. Basically says, "Therefore, since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God." And in that kind of space, the context of that is that Paul is talking and encouraging believers to live out their faith. But I thought it was really relevant to what I know of you guys' story in terms of your passion of bettering yourselves and becoming better versions of who God wants you to be, but also the literal physical sense of, bettering your health and your mind and body and spirit. So to put you guys on the spot here a little bit, but I was going to ask if that verse also kind of means anything to you guys particularly.
Definitely resonates. I'm actually going to highlight it.
Yeah. It starts with promises, and I think that's such a key pivotal moment in my own understanding of God. oftentimes people who've been brought up in religion, such as me, brought up SDA, and we prioritize the actions that we need to do first instead of prioritizing the love God has for us first, the promises God has for us first, the fact that he already died, he's already saved us, he's already done those things for us, and thus we just live in that promise versus trying to work for that promised things. And in my own journey, there's been multiple times where I've tried to do it the other way and it hasn't worked. You can try and defile self in body and spirit accidentally or on purpose, because you're trying to do it before you've accepted the promise or before you've accepted God's love, because it's only through love these choices and chances can be made. Bringing holiness to completion in the fear of God. I think that's just a beautiful way to end it. You're only complete in God. We've only been complete in God. There's so many points in my journey, even into medical school, where I had told God, I want to go in at 18. And he said, I have a journey that I want you to complete. I want you to make health talks. I want you to have a ministry that shares health. And it's only in trusting God that part has become, or is becoming complete.
What really stood out for me is the purifying ourselves from everything that contaminates body and mind, or body and spirit. I think that our life flows out from our thoughts. And this verse reminded me of that song that we used to sing in children's Sabbath school, where they're like, oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Because it all starts with what we have up here, which is determined subconsciously with our friends, the media that we consume, the music that we listen to, the environment that we're in. That really influences our brain narrative, our scripting, what we tell ourselves. And from that flows our habits, and from our habits flow our routines, and from our routines build up our life, and our life builds up our character. And so if you want to perfect holiness out of reverence for God, then we should only surround ourselves with things that edify him and align with his standard for our lives, which is a hard task to do. It's not easy, as I've laid it out there, but it's out of reverence for him, it's out of obedience for him, it's out of trusting in him that he knows what's best for us, that we can do this. And I've personally experienced that in my life, as Namooya touched on, that, you know, you try your own way, it doesn't work out, you think, oh, why is it not working out for me? And as soon as you try it God's way, things start falling into place, things that aren't even in your control start working for you. And so I really think this verse is poignant in terms of really being intentional about our habits and what we surround ourselves with, especially nowadays when we have so many messaging bombarded to us. His word is what grounds us and keeps us.
Wow, our life throws some flows from our thoughts. You know, I was saying to someone else in a different interview that I should start a t-shirt line and start putting these quotes on t-shirts, because they're just they're so good. They're so good, and you put it on a wall. But no, that's really, really powerful from you guys. I sat here and I was smiling. You guys can't see, but I was smiling because you guys sort of answered all my questions in like that one little Bible study. But like, thank you so much for listening, guys. Be sure to
It's a wrap.
No, that was incredible. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. So, one thing I love to do, in addition to the Bible studies, play a little game. So, a game called HealthTalks. And
I love this.
A version of this or that, but health-wise. And so you've got healthcare/healthy and overrated. So I've got about, I was going to say 10, I haven't counted them. But there's a bunch of questions.
Okay. I'm so ready for this.
Can shout out, is it self-care or healthy or overrated? So first on the list, we have cutting people off. Self-care or overrated? If I should give you a minute to think, or...
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna count your down in 3, 2, 1, and
overrated.
Self-care. Ooh!
I knew you'd say that.
Okay. Let's start with the self-care then.
Yeah. Just like the verse said, you need to do a spring clean of who's around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, everyone knows that phrase. You are the product of your five closest friends, or I don't know,
Yeah.
your circle of influence, right? And cutting off doesn't necessarily mean that it was a negative separation. It might just be you outgrow people, or that you aren't aligned anymore in terms of how you view friendship and what that means for both of you, or you want different things in life, and you have people for the time that you have them, and it's a privilege to get to know anyone. But there does come a point naturally in life where those paths diverge, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And if you aren't the same people anymore, because people change, it's okay, I think, and it's healthy to let that go and not feel or not put so much pressure on making everything last. Some people are there for a season, some people are there for longer. It's just the way life is. So I think it is self-care to make sure, or to be active in who's around you and who you spend time with and who you allow in your life, because you have to protect that. You have to be able to protect who's in, who knows, who advises you. So that's why I would say it is self-care, but it's not necessarily ghosting people or ending on a bad thing, or I have to cut everyone off in order to have a peaceful, productive, and happy life. We weren't supposed to be on our own. So if you have found that you've protected your peace too hard, that there is no one left, something's gone wrong. So that's my thinking behind my answer.
Yes. My problem is how people actually action cutting people off. When you hear people talk about cutting people off, it's normally what Czarina's just described. It's the ghosting. It's the cutting everyone off in your circle. It's the deciding that every single person who may have disappointed you, I'm not talking about trauma, I'm not talking about abuse, I'm not talking about persistent problems that disappointed you, that you've decided that you're going to cut them off. Every single person in your life will disappoint you at some point. It's just the nature of human beings, because you are not perfect, I am not perfect, they are not perfect. We are nowhere near close to perfect. We strive to be good most of the time. And because of that, you will be disappointed. And I think with the cutting off, the way that cutting off is described, it's often described as, this person disappointed me, should I cut them off? And it comes before reconciliation. Often in the church and the Bible talks about, if someone has wronged you, your first step is go talk to them. Then it doesn't stop there. It says, after you've spoken to them, if you cannot be resolved, the next thing you do is you speak to a close friend, a trusted friend. In the Bible talks about maybe an elder. It talks about somebody with wisdom to now mediate. If that doesn't work, it then says again, there's a third step. I think that was written not just because of church disputes or disputes within the body of Christ. It's disputes in your life and how you should talk about those. Now it does say, if all fails, dust off your shoes. That's absolutely okay. But most of the time, people will give their partners 100 billion chances. That boy who's done you wrong 70 billion times has those many chances, but your friend who disappointed you once, twice, doesn't have those chances. And that's where the gripe comes in. And again, on what Czarina was saying, we need people. One of the things that's happened, because we have access to knowing so many people exist in a more intimate way, is believing that they all exist in your tangible sphere. You only have a few people in your tangible sphere. They say that you should have at least 6 people which you can go to for that emotional connection, that if something goes wrong, you have at least 6 people. Oh, this is the person I go to for this, this is the person I go to for this. A mixture of family, friends, mentors, they can all be in this 6. But in our culture, because there are so many people I can see, I might believe that there is the 300 Instagram followers. no, it's making sure that you have that circle. Outside of that, yeah, cut the people off that are doing you wrong, who are not allowing you to prosper in this life. But again, realizing that we're there to uplift others, and in their points of being down, have you gone through those steps? Have you tried to reconcile? And that's why I would say it's overrated. It can be rated a little bit, but it's overrated.
Okay. I guess that you kind of answered the first question that I would have asked about how Health Talks came about. And I know you guys dive into that into detail on your YouTube channel. So if you guys are listening, do go and subscribe over there. I believe the YouTube channel is just called Health Talks.
Yes, and we're on Spotify and Apple.
It's called the Health Talks podcast on all other streaming platforms.
Okay, there we go. Got to get the details right. Sure. I guess the next question I would have is, how has the process of you guys building and creating Health Talks and obviously growing in your knowledge of health in your studies and professional work, and that, how has that influenced and changed your relationship with God?
Good question.
Yeah. A great question to reflect on.
I
would say it's shown me, you know, that verse where it says, he will give you more than you can ask for or imagine. In a summary, short summary, that's what creating Health Talks and going on this journey has really proved to me personally. When we started this, it was just for an application, just to put on the CV. I did not ever think or imagine that it would go on for this long, to have this much of an impact. And now, even when we dream big and have all these crazy ideas at 3 a.m., I know that God has even bigger, better plans. And so it's all about trusting him, because when we started this, we were in a completely different point in our spiritual journey as well. It was a lot more, for me personally, transactional. God, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do this for me. And now it's more like, what I'm saying, I have to be true to and live by myself, because I wouldn't want to be an advocate for health and living for God and not do it myself. So it's kept me accountable in that sense. I have a higher purpose to just following God. For me, I'm doing this to be a good role model and example for other people that I want to help. So it's really helped me on my journey in that sense, and has given me the ability to practice my leadership skills, my public speaking skills. It's allowed me to meet loads of new people who want to go on this lifestyle journey as well. And so it's really given me that privilege. So all in all, the way it's changed my life. When I give these talks, I want to tell everyone, I'm talking to myself as well. Each time I do the Healthy Habits talk, I take something new from it, and it all really is underpinned by God being so gracious and pouring so much into us and allowing us to have this as a vessel to showcase his amazing glory and power, by us just being willing to use our gifts and talents. So if anyone is listening who has an idea or is passionate about something, and they have a talent for something but they don't know how, just go for it. Put in the work, be very proactive, pray to God, and you literally have a cheat code for success.
Exactly. For me personally, at the very beginning, it was more of a drive of, I find biology super exciting. I think we are God's greatest creation, and I am biased and I don't care. I didn't want anyone around me to have less information or make choices that were not informed. And I don't mean make the same choices as me. I simply mean make choices that are informed. And that's how it started for me, just having that frustration of, okay, I've heard so-and-so say this, but also I know that that's a misconception across the board. How can we do something small? One of the phrases I like to say is, my ministry ministers to me. And It's
that eats. Put that on the shirt as well.
Yeah,
that's number 3.
But yeah, my ministry genuinely ministers to me. There is something about talking to people about something good and going home and reevaluating every single time your life, reevaluating the choices that you make. And one of the things that happened in the beginning was, as I'm telling people why they should live a healthy life, I had to again reestablish why should people live a healthy life? What is it that we are becoming healthy bodies for? What is it that we should have healthy minds for? Because you can be hedonistic about it. You can be nihilistic about it. What's the whole point? There's a certain level of purpose you have to want to be the best version of yourself. If you do not believe that you're meant to be here, it's very hard to be excellent. And I enjoy going for the best, being the most excellent version of myself in whatever that is, whether that's academically, spiritually, and striving for that. And so then you have to look back at yourself in the mirror and ask, well, why? And that answer has always been God. Every time I've gone back around this loop, around this circle of, wait, why am I doing this again? Why am I stopping myself from doing X, Y, and Z again? You have to look back and say, because God, He has really blessed us, even when we don't deserve it. We've never been deserving, but even when we don't deserve it, and I am convinced that every opportunity is God calling us back. Every time I think, oh, okay, these rules, they're starting to feel like rules again. You know, it's gone from relationship to rules. When I'm in great relationship with God, it doesn't feel like rules. The same way when you're in love with your friends and your partner, you want to do everything for them. And the moment that starts to wane, the emotion of that, though love is not an emotion, it's a choice. But when the emotion of that starts to wane, it starts to feel like rules again. And when I'm on the rules side or swaying towards that side, a new opportunity comes about. And it's genuinely as immediate as that. Health Talks will get flown to Scotland. And I'm like, oh, I need to lock in, because this God that loves me, even when I'm starting to lean back on this feels like rules, is willing and ready to bless us again. I enjoy speaking to people. It's absolutely my love to share something new. And He has blessed me by allowing me to continue to do that. He's blessed us in our unity, in our friendship. There is so much that could be said about that, but over the years, Czarina and I have known each other since we were 8. We recently got this right, because I was always saying 7 years old, but since we were 8 years old, and from then we've never had a problem. That's only God. He doesn't bless friendships like these for you to waste it. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed ministry and Health Talks. As I say, it's ministered back to me and always brought me from that rock between relationship and rules, and it should always lean towards the relationship side.
That's beautiful. Czarina, I saw you unmuted yourself. I don't know if you had something else to add on to the end of that.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that the reason why people procrastinate on their life is because they think they have all the time in the world to action their dreams. When we started this, like, it was in our rooms. We just had Canva and ideas and enough delusion, enough faith, enough belief in what we wanted to do that we just did it. And God blesses any small effort and step that you take out in faith. So I really encourage people to think about what they want to achieve or accomplish at the end of the day. And for me, that's being able to say, as Paul said, that I've run the race and I've done it. I've been a good servant of God and used my talents and not played small with it. So that's why I have such a dislike towards people wasting their potential by just sitting on it and doing nothing. We aren't any different anymore, blessed than anyone. God created us all with something, and I think a lack of purpose is a real issue in our society today. And to answer your question again, health talks and relationship with God, it's given us a sense of purpose. It's given us something to do other than just work and church, and it's combined everything together: our passions, our hopes and dreams for changing the world, faith, friendship. It's all amalgamated in this beautiful thing, and so it's really a blessing in itself.
Inspiring words from Czarina and Namooya, and we'll be back after the short break to delve into mental health, anxiety, overstimulation, and so much more. Was myself and Dwight Johns playing Blessed Assurance. Welcome back. I'm your host Adele, and you're listening to Youth Perspective on Adventist Radio London. You see, now one thing I love about interviewing you guys is you keep answering questions I haven't even asked you yet.
We're overachievers. If there's one thing you need to ask.
But yeah, no, that's a fantastic initiative that you guys are really spearheading with the SEC, and I know there's many more to come. And I kind of wanted to ask something, but the launch video that you guys shared when it was announced that you guys would be partnering with the SEC. So you guys mentioned mental health, and since COVID, mental health has been the talk of all the generations, particularly the older generation, well, older than us, about our generation, our mental health. Can't speak for that, but I know that I was having a conversation with some friends about how going outside is now long, and the canyon between my room and the front door is so big, and sometimes you don't want to go. You want to get out, but you can't get that far. As I said, I am an introvert who cosplays as an extrovert. But the question I was going to ask you guys really is, what would you say at the moment is one of the biggest challenges that we face as young people, mental health wise, and what would be your advice or kind of like your perspective on that?
That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question. There's lots of answers. But I will give one. I think it's overstimulation. There's so many things happening. Like Namooya has touched on previously, we weren't created to have this much exposure to so many things constantly, and I think it just takes up so much of our time that it feels like we can't breathe. So I've been reading a book recently called The 5 a.m. Club. I'm sure it's a book that everyone's heard about. I do recommend it, actually. It's a narrative. I thought it was going to be like your generic self-help book, but I do recommend it. And the main message is basically and it doesn't have to be at 5 a.m., although the book says that, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be 5 a.m., but to take some time before your day starts, before your responsibilities call, before distractions get in the way, before you go on your phone, to just be and to just exist. And there's 3 components of that it suggests: move your body, journal, reflect, pray and meditate, that sort of activity, and also do something that expands your mind, that stretches you, whether that's practicing the guitar that you've always said you wanted to do, or doing your Duolingo. Doing those three things for yourself at the beginning of your day will mean that you set the tone for the rest of it. So you're more resilient, you feel happier, and generally you have the mental bandwidth to deal then with what the world throws at you. But if you don't do that, if you start your day, as I sometimes used to do, just opening your laptop straight at 9 a.m., dealing with work, dealing with your phone, your family, your friends, all of these things, it's going to feel suffocating and it's going to take a toll on your mental health. But if you give yourself that hour, 30 minutes, even 5 minutes to just beforehand, it makes such a difference. And how I've done this practically is I open my Bible app first thing in the morning. I'm being realistic. I'm not turning on the light and opening my physical Bible. I'm just going to be real. I open up the Bible app and I do the daily devotion, and I write down my prayers or my anxieties for the day, and I just literally dump it on the page. And I feel so much better afterwards. And not only do you get a record of everything that you've prayed for to then look back on, you also have done that exercise of reflection and giving everything to God. And I've had days when it's literally just been, please help, because that's all I could write down. And what do you know? I finish on time at work. I managed to eat. I drank my water. And things just turn out for better when you put God first. And so I think the issue is overstimulation, and there's so many other threads that you can pull from that. There's not one clear-cut answer, but for me, I would say that's the issue.
Exactly. I 100% second that. I would say the second, and it may not be in order, it's just another one, is loneliness. We are the loneliest youth that have probably ever existed as a generation on this planet. People our age for generations in the past were not considered this lonely. We're not considered this depressed. We're not considered with such high levels of anxiety. We're in a generation, as I've mentioned before, who sees the most people, but probably has wholesome, meaningful interactions with the least people. And so that is going to affect your mental health. There is a common statistic floating around, and don't quote me on the scientific accuracy, but it does say that loneliness kills quicker than smoking cigarettes. And even if that number is not exactly correct, in actual practicality, it makes 100% sense. Humans are social creatures. God says fellowship with one another. That wasn't a joke. He didn't just say that as something random. He said that because he created us, and he knows that we need to separate meaningful time with others. I think the biggest reason why people don't is the pressures of life, including work and school. And then we've got not being able to manage that time. So not being able to build the sort of healthy habits that mean that you can take guilt-free time with your friends. And it's really important.
Heavy on the guilt-free.
Because some of us will be like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna hang out with them. I'm gonna forgo all the deadlines. I can't do it anymore. And then we'll go out.
It becomes a vice. It becomes an escape.
And you don't want socializing to become a vice. It's something so good that can be turned to evil. So how I really have tried to rectify this in the last year is creating a lot of social meetups based on other things that I know I also want to do. So, for example, I do salsa 2 hours every week. It's one of the things I do that is not based in being the best. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but everything else I try to do to the utmost excellence. Now, I'm not going to lie, in the salsa class, I'm paying attention and I'm trying to do well, but it's something that is for fun. I've met new people there. They've invited me to different things. Have I had the time to go to the different things yet? No, but I've at least met new friends and had that social connection. Another thing I've done recently, we haven't done it over a few weeks as the winter has been cold and my friend has gotten an injury, but roller skating once a week. I just wanted to learn and met up with my friend. And I was like, you know what's a good way to get us to always have time is to pair it up with this thing we both want to learn and roller skate. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Can I skate backwards yet? No. Will I? Yes. And so we have a fun, arbitrary goal that's not based in monetization. It's not based in content. It's not based in anything other than the fun of being a human. And one of the things I think we have started to lose a little bit is the ability to play. It is not just children that need to play. Humans need to play. A lot of us have lost that, and it doesn't have to be sport. As I've said, I just go to a salsa class and do roller skating and we teach ourselves. And so loneliness needs to be tackled. And I think the best solution is to pair it with guilt-free ways of socializing. And the last thing I'll say is making sure that each day has a little nugget. And I will say this with almost all of my advice, the same with the social media detox. Having that nugget of socializing every day, whether that's just calling your sister, calling your friend, calling somebody, we have to deal with what we have. That way, tackling a little bit of that loneliness pandemic. What I will say is that one of our big campaigns, which I will not reveal now, tackles what Czarina said and what I said. So definitely stay tuned for that announcement. Those are the two big things that we're tackling.
Now some really key tips. I have two things that I wanna pick your brains on before we wrap up. That Namooya, you mentioned about anxiety and fear, and I literally have written here how to overcome fear and anxiety. I know fear and anxiety, they are not the same thing. And they do have, especially anxiety, have their different connotations and obviously beyond that medical connotations. But anxiety kind of and fear being very key factors in terms of the overstimulation causes a lot of fear and anxiety. It causes a lot of FOMO. It causes a lot of kind of, thought process of am I doing enough? And that sort of leads to increased loneliness in various kinds of ways. So I guess the question itself would be, from your guys' kind of expertise and experiences, how do we overcome this fear and anxiety? And I wasn't going to mention the next question, but I will because it's sort of related. The next one is to do with becoming that best version of yourself. If you guys haven't heard Czarina's Becoming Her speech, then you best get on that because your 2025 will not be the same after. But becoming that best version of yourself, and again, fear and imposter syndrome are such a big part of that. So I've sort of given the both questions to you on a platter so you guys can kind of answer them in whatever.
Adele, you need to book us again. This is a whole other episode. You can't just say you have two questions for us and then bring those two things out.
I sat there and I looked at them and I was like, yeah, I can't lie, this is loud. But we'll
give a short little trailer to our next video because we're definitely going to do another one. But no, I'm going to let you tackle the questions first.
Yes, fear and anxiety. The first things I want to say is alone, these are not negative emotions. And for some people, they'll maybe have had that with fear, maybe not with anxiety. For anyone who's watched the Emotions movie, why have I forgotten what it's called?
Inside Out.
Inside Out 2. The reason that I know about it is because it was brought up in one of my medical lectures. But basically, the entire concept is that every emotion is necessary and has a purpose. Fear is there as a natural emotion that you're going to have to a stimulus that you should be afraid of. And that's when it's healthy. If you see a lion in front of you, you should feel fear. If you fall over a really tall building, God forbid, you should feel fear. So fear is your response to immediate threat. What's anxiety? Anxiety is your response to a future threat. The reason why anxiety exists in its healthy form, which is never spoken really about, in its healthy form is to let you have the energy and motivation to prepare for a future threat. right? So when you have that small amount of anxiety, and I mean small, most people just say, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. That's probably the healthy version. That's how we colloquially call it. A little bit nervous for, I don't know, I'm going to a new job. I'm a little bit nervous to go to a new school. I'm a little bit nervous to go to a new country, a new church. And then it means that you prepare. Maybe you look up this church. Maybe you look up this school. You buy the things you need. You pack your bag the day before. There's that funny meme of someone's clothes laid out, their outfit on their bed for the next day. That is that healthy anxiety. Why? You're not going to do that every day because you're going to lose that anxiety. But the first day, you're preparing for a new environment. Mm-hmm. That is the healthy version. I wanted to start with that so that people understand that you're not trying to take those feelings completely away. They are natural. What we are trying to do, though, is harness them, regulate them, and keep them at healthy levels, because the majority of youth nowadays have the levels of anxiety that would put us in a mental asylum 100 years ago, because it's just super high. Why? Because we are overstimulated. I shouldn't be feeling the type of preparatory anxiety over the politics across the world. That's not what I was built to do. Maybe in my country I could have dealt with that, but now I'm dealing with the anxiety over world politics, the anxiety over climate change, the anxiety over all of these things which are important to know. I'm the sort of person who will watch video essays on YouTube about these same issues. But now to tackle your question, which was, if I'm right, how do you tackle these? And I'm going to change it to say, how do you tackle unhealthy levels of fear and anxiety? The first one is very simple. People may not like it, but the best thing to do is physical activity. If you can, I'm going to use very colloquial language here, if you can quote unquote burn off those feelings, if you can do something with yourself, it's telling your body that you're doing something. It's literally that simple majority of the time. If when you wake up, all you do is scroll through the world's problems, you are going to have unhealthy levels of fear of anxiety, versus, as Zarina was talking about, that morning. If you're able to wake up and do something, even if it's not physical to you, maybe you're reading the Bible, maybe you're journaling, maybe you're drawing, maybe you're writing, you're expressing yourself, you're adding to the world's collection of things, you're less likely to feel that fear and anxiety right in the morning. That's one of the things. The other is talking to somebody. If you do have levels where you are afraid for yourself, whether you're afraid of your own health, of whether you're afraid of your own safety, talk to someone. There are numbers. There's the Samaritan number. You can type into Google, I need a helpline. I need a crisis line. I say this next because it's really important, and sometimes people underestimate the levels that they're feeling. There are so many ways. Adele, I wish this was its own episode again, but
we'll invite you back to delve into it deeper and properly.
Definitely. But I'll say for anxiety, it's understanding that God is in control is probably, if not probably, is assuredly the single best way to deal with the anxiety that you're able to control. With people like you and I, Zarina and I, who do so many things, there is plenty of scope to be completely anxious. And even the healthy levels might be a bit intense because there's so many different things that we're doing. But knowing that at the end of the day, this is God's plan. I'm just a tool. I'm just an instrument here. Is one of the best ways. And as I said again, if you're feeling too high levels of anxiety, of fear, 100% speak to somebody, speak to a healthcare professional, speak to your friends, speak to all of them. And to address your second question, which was how did we become who we are to this point? I think that was your second question.
It was
how do you become the best version of yourself?
Yeah, because a lot of the habits that we've spoken about today, even from the anxiety to everything else, are in a way to do with becoming that best, healthier version of yourself who's not experiencing unhealthy anxiety, who is, saving lives, who's giving blood, who is kind of like using those healthy habits, who's doing all those kind of things. So that was the inspiration behind that question. Yeah.
I'd say the first thing was taking every opportunity that aligned with my goals. There is not one thing that I wanted to do that I haven't already, at this point, tested out, gonna put my foot in the door. There's one thing my mum said when I was younger: I wanted to be a doctor and a pilot and an archaeologist and probably an astronaut. And I was like, oh, I can't do all of these. And my mum just said to me, why not? And that fueled me for the rest of my life, which meant that I took those opportunities and try and did them to the best of my ability. Pray, do all the physical activity that I'm trying to do, eat well, changing my lifestyle to go with what I wanted. So I fueled my body, bearing in mind the type of woman I would like to be, the type of quality of life I'd like to be. Say that I became plant-based, what is this now? 4 years?
5 years.
5 years? 5 years ago. I've never been on a diet. I just changed my lifestyle. I just changed the entire food fuel. There's so many things I could say why, and I'll probably pick this back up after I let Czarina go. But yeah, basically taking the opportunities, allowing any frustrations I've seen in my world, society, or institution to fuel me to make change in those places. That's the same with Million Things Medic, and seeing the change I want to make with students who are medics, who fuel their entire life only by being in medicine. Anyone in their job who fuels their entire purpose in one thing, knowing that there is so many other purpose, which means that you can never be knocked off your own stool because you have so many other purposes. And then phasing, literally using the tips we teach about in the Healthy Habits talk, applying them and reapplying them every day to make the small changes. Because it's small. There's nothing that you will see in my life today that wasn't a small change I didn't make a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, to get to this cumulative change today.
To answer your question, and in interest of time, I'm going to tackle them at the same time by telling you a story. I was in third year and my levels of anxiety was insane. To the point where it was actually Namooya who was like, maybe you should talk to someone. And I remember going to counseling and telling this lady that I feel such a heavy burden of expectation to perform and achieve, to be able to make my parents proud, to make sure that everyone else's dreams of myself become a reality. And that meant a very strict pathway to success, which was medical school. And so I was dealing with trying to get the best grades in order to have the best chance, but in my heart not wanting to go down that path. So I think those things were the perfect storm for fear, both fear as in present immediate danger, I have essays due back to back, and anxiety of getting into the type of career that everyone else wants for me. So I explained this to my counselor at my session, and I was telling her that I wrapped my entire identity in this way. Accolades, accomplishment, achievements is who I am, and if I don't deliver, who will I be? That's where the root of my anxiety came from. And as Namooya said, and as my counselor told me, anxiety is not unhealthy, it's how it manifests and the levels of it that we experience. What she says is that we want to go through life, and naturally life will have ups and downs, but what we want to do is be able to smooth those so it's more like a rolling hill rather than steep jagged mountains. Like, you don't want to be at 0 and 100 every day where you're up and down, you're crying and you're breaking down at every single thing. You want to build up that mental resilience to be able to smooth over those bumps, because we can't remove that from life. We're going to experience them, but what we want to do is to be able to have the toolkit to cope healthily when those obstacles come our way. So the one healthy way I dealt with that is every morning, like I've touched on, I would just do a brain dump in a form of a prayer. It was literally like a plea. Like, imagine Psalms. That was me. That Psalms is me back at uni. I would literally just write out everything that I am anxious about, that I am immediately scared of. Like, Lord, I have an essay due at 3. I haven't written a draft or a plan. Help. Or I still don't know what my dissertation topic is. No idea. Help. So being able to unburden myself of all the things that are just ruminating and swirling around my head really enabled me to clear it so that I could take action for the rest of the day, and I wasn't paralyzed, which often anxiety does to you, to my bed rotting and scrolling and trying to escape the things that I needed to get started on. So that's the first part of your question. Start your day, brain dump, pray. If there's one thing you can action now, that would be my suggestion. In terms of becoming her, which is, thank you for the shout out, Adele, what I talk about in terms of young women and being able to live a sustainably successful life so that they can make an impact in their community, careers, and connections. It's all about, like Namooya said, making those small changes. And for me, the way I phrased it, because change is like a scary word. No one likes change. And I work in comms and PR, and language is really, really important. And again, the narrative you tell yourself is really important. So instead of phrasing it as a change, I phrased it as a promise. Again, so many throwbacks, circle backs. The verse we just read said the word promise. So instead of saying I'm going to make small changes, instead I said to myself, I'm going to make small promises to myself. And we talk about this in Healthy Habits, about not overwhelming yourself with so many different promises, so many different changes. You just want to make one, because once you build one and keep one, you will then build or cultivate a character and prove to yourself that you have this ability to take ownership of your life. So it was one small promise that I kept to myself at the start of 2024, which was that every Monday I would go to the gym, and no matter how I felt, no matter what the weather was like outside, no matter if I felt good or bad or sad, or if I had a bad day, I would go. No excuses. I wouldn't give myself any leeway. And being able to keep that promise and build that inner integrity meant that I realized I do have it in me to be this person. And it's not, there's no imposter syndrome anymore. Like, how many times have I proved to myself that I can show up and do the things I said I would do? Because there's nothing that will destroy your self-worth more than letting yourself down each time. Like, imagine you have a friend and every week you say to them, oh, I'm going to see you. And every week you let them down. You're not going to be a bad friend. And that's the same way that we should think about our self-development journey, our personal development journey, our journey to becoming her or him or the best version of yourself, is making those small promises so that once you're doing it, it naturally will bleed into every other aspect of your life, because you know what it's like to push yourself. You know what it's like to be proactive rather than reactive. You're not going to be one of those people who have to rely on motivation, because it doesn't matter what's going on in the external. Internally, you've centered yourself on the principle of, I'm going to keep these promises that I've told myself. So naturally, if you say to yourself every morning, I'm going to pray, you already have built that discipline, and you can literally just pull it and use it in every other avenue of your life. And it compounds. Once you've locked down one thing, it's like a magic trick. It's literally amazing how you can apply it to every other aspect of your life. You can apply it to your career, in terms of if you want to go for that promotion. There's something that you're not doing that if you did would make a massive impact to whatever it is, whatever area of your life it is, and you're just procrastinating on doing it. And if you just did it and kept that promise, you will reap the rewards. And I've seen it in my personal journey, and that's what I talk about in Becoming Her. And it all started with that one promise at the start of 2024, where me and my friend of mine held each other accountable to just going to the gym on a Monday every day. It doesn't matter if I do 10 minutes on the treadmill. It doesn't matter if I do a full leg workout. It's the act of doing it, showing up, it's not that you gave everything every week, but at the end of it, you've done 97% of the year, which is what I did last year. And then it just becomes natural. It becomes, like I said, a lifestyle. And then you are her. And then now I'm at the point where I can be privileged enough to help other people go on this same path.
Thank you for although they were big questions, you guys have tackled them very, very well. Amazing. And guys, thank you so much for coming on. You've heard it here first. If you are feeling lonely, Czarina runs Girl Gone Wellness. They have frequent workout fitness sessions, puppies. I saw some puppies, so I'm throwing out the
Yes, we did puppy yoga on Sunday. It was honestly the best.
To the medical side of things, and Million Things Medic is there on Instagram. I believe that is a handle, Million Things Medic.
Yes, and on TikTok. And I must shout out with the rest of Health Talks. Of course, come to our Health Talks. We have masterclasses coming out soon. This is the actual one-on-one / group to 2, where we can go through your individual lives. When we give our talk, we give the advice that everyone can take, but we can only give advice to people in their individual habits that they may need to change. Whereas in the master classes which are coming out, we're able to sit down with you. Oh, you work here. How does it work with your exact schedule? Because that's what we can't tackle in the big talks. So definitely keep your eye out for that as well.
Guys, you've heard it here first. If you want to make 2025 your year, then you know where to go. You know where to go. Thank you so much to Czarina and Namooya for coming on the show. You can find them on socials at HealthTalksUK, and you can find us on socials at _youth perspective. Stay tuned, as next week we'll be back with another episode, this time featuring a group of young people who are truly changing the narrative when it comes to conversations in the church. But that's all for tonight. I've been Adele, your host, and you've been listening to Youth Perspective on Adventist Radio London. Good night and bye-bye for now.